Life in South Africa has gotten dramatically worse and more difficult over the past 6 years due to one reason. Because a coward is occupying the union buildings. And it is time now to tell it like it is. President Cyril Ramaphosa is a coward. Everything he has done since coming to power has been motivated by a cowardly desire to stay in power at all costs, to protect the corrupt, and to keep his shattered political party united. His uncaring government doesn't bat an eyelid about the suffering of the people. While the youth of this country struggle against the odds to try to build a better future, the ANC is stealing their dreams. Just last week, a series of leaked recordings released by the Organisation Undoing Tax Abuse revealed the details of a criminal cartel operating inside the Department of Higher Education and the National Student Financial Aid Scheme known as NSFAS. The recordings reveal that service providers that were awarded multi-million rand tenders to administer direct payments to students allegedly paid kickbacks to the chairman of NSFAS, Ernest Khosa, to the Minister of Higher Education, Nzimande, and to a South African Communist Party. According to OUTA, this was done in return for tenders and protection for service providers. These revelations demonstrate that nothing is sacred to the ANC government. Instead of supporting our students who are working hard to try and rise above hardship in order to build a better future for themselves and our country, the ANC only sees another opportunity to loot. Thanks to the recently released recordings, we now know why these lucrative tenders were awarded to companies that no one had ever heard of. This was an exchange for kickback payments to Nzimande, Khosa, and the SACP. Every time a student uses their NSFAS card, they're effectively forced to help fund this corrupt scheme. But the scandal doesn't end there. There are also now serious questions swirling around another set of tenders awarded by NSFAS to manage student accommodation. In addition to cutting the accommodation allowance by 15,000 rand per year last year, the scheme now also requires educational institutions and private accommodation providers to obtain accreditation at a cost of up to 200 rand per bed. Once they're accredited, NSFAS also then deducts 5% from the rental amount for what it refers to as a license fee. Just like the exorbitant bank charges introduced last year, this is clearly another lucrative way for cadres and their preferred service providers to milk students and accommodation providers. Last year, we already witnessed the horrific scenes of our students being forced to sleep in libraries, hallways, and bathrooms. But sadly, things are about to get a whole lot worse. By the end of last year, only 6.5% of the beds required for the 2024 academic year had been accredited under the new system. The systemic corruption evident in NSFAS and the Department of Higher Education is likely to trigger a serious crisis when students return to campuses later this month, only to find that they cannot access accommodation and are being charged to fund corruption every time they try to buy food. ANC corruption and mismanagement has already created a funding shortfall of over 1.1 billion rand, which means that funding will be withdrawn from over 87,000 students, in addition to the 20,000 students who were already deprived last year. And yet, despite this existential crisis that threatens to derail our higher education sector, President Cyril Ramaphosa remains absent as usual. Just like he does every time that evidence emerges showing that corruption and capture has reached new heights under his administration, President Ramaphosa takes the coward's way out. Instead of firing Nzimande and Khosa, he has remained silent, while the ANC has meekly suggested that Nzimande may appear before its so-called Integrity Committee. Now, the Constitution spells out that only the President has the responsibility to act against corrupt cabinet ministers. When a minister commits corruption or undermines the cabinet, it is the job of a real leader to deal with that person decisively.